pretty.
What was that?
It was the test noise to make sure that the feed was going through my headphones and not the computer internal speaker. That's the new intro to the song.
You mean to the show?
To the show.
Yeah.
Every time we introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Say it. I'm Autumn Fisher. Say it.
I'm Autumn Fisher.
And I'm Greg Russ. And this
you're
is...
listening to One Topic. Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
And my name is Greg Russ. And this week's topic is... I actually don't know what this week's topic is. What is it? How would you describe whatever this topic is going to be?
Well, it's either going to be titled something about what I'm going to talk about, pertaining to my story, or maybe it will inspire you to tell some, story. And then, you know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see what it is. But I want to talk about my personal life is falling apart. And I feel embarrassed, ashamed, pathetic, ridiculous, alone. Yeah. Good.
Any other adjectives?
What's that?
Any other adjectives?
No. Tired.
Okay, I'll stop doing that because I know that you really want to talk about this seriously. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know anything going into this. I asked, should I be prepped before we start recording? And you said, no, I just want to talk about it on the show. It is 2 shows in a row. That's just about you. Last week, bad. Autumn. That's fine. I just wanted to give you a hard time. Though, the way you're describing it seems like it's been a big shift. Last week was Autumn's drunk and listens to music.
Yeah.
And you were in a good mood.
Really good mood. And, great time. And
I don't know what this is, but I know that there's a twisted ankle and it's swollen.
Yeah.
And there's a bruise on your arm.
Yeah.
Obviously you fell. So at some point I assume you were drunk and you fell.
Yes, but there's so much more.
Were you roller skating?
No. I did not, plug into that TikTok trend of millennials learning how to roller skate and look like they're from the 70s.
Well, some of those people are really good. The way they move, it's so smooth.
Yeah, that's cool. But they are I think a very specific group of people. It's either like the old people that were skating in the 80s that are still roller skating, or these people have, they probably were like ice skaters or something, right?
Or they just started roller skating. Some people have roller skated. Yeah. I saw kids in the park the other day, probably 4 years old, on skateboards, already doing ollies and... they're cool.
I've seen that too.
Their cool dad was standing by.
Yeah.
Watching. It's a strange, I assume at that age, I don't know, maybe if your dad skateboards, you say, I want to do that too. And then you can help them learn. Or you
they have lower center of gravity.
Yeah, or you push it on them. That's a good point. Wait until they grow. Wait until that boy turns into some lank ass skinny bean. in the center of gravity is 6 feet off the ground because he's 12 feet tall.
That's a skinny bean.
It's like Mike TV and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when they're leaving the factory. The bad one. I'm talking about
the bad one. Let's never talk about the bad one.
And he's stretched out and he's really thin, but he's stretched. Hey, we needed to know they were all okay. That's why we needed to see them walking out at the end.
Turns out we didn't need to see that. We didn't need to be told that because no one was traumatized from the first movie, except from maybe the tunnel scene. That was it.
Yeah, that was the only scene. Nobody cared that Violet blew up into a blueberry. He said,
no.
Okay.
No one's like, but what about the kids? Anyway, so let me tell my story.
Okay, so tell your story.
So, as some people know, Greg and I broke up and then started dating this person. He has broken up with me. So that felt great. feeling lame and sad. So where do I turn? Is like a little booze, a little drinking. So that was Friday. I was drinking, being sad and weird. Like went on a drive and listened to music. Like sang really loud in the car in like a Target shopping parking lot. That's fine. I needed to go to bed. Like I made myself go to bed so that it would be the next day. And that was yesterday. So then yesterday, I was actually, I did a podcast, with Travis's cousin's boyfriend. He has a podcast in Wisconsin called Off the Rails. I've done it before. I kind of do it like once a year. So I was doing that. Sorry, we were recording 2 episodes. And in the first episode, they were drinking beer. And I was like, oh, cool. I want a beer. So during the second one, I got 2 beers and I drank them pretty quickly, like in 1 hour. And then we were going, even though Alex and I broke up, he like invited me still over to his house with a bunch of other people because he was like grilling. And you know me, I like to pretend like I can do anything and nothing, whatever. So I went. And I felt like he was talking to people and I felt like jealous, which is something I don't normally feel. And I was like bummed. I was sad, but I was just like kept pounding drinks. Like I just kept drinking. There's some pictures that were taken that I don't remember taking. I don't remember being in those pictures. I don't remember the pictures being taken. I don't remember how the night ended. But I left the house. No, it was just me and him left. And I left. And it was raining. I was wearing like a hoodie jacket. I didn't have my shoes. I didn't have my socks. I was just wearing my shoes without socks. I didn't have the bag that I brought with me. I didn't have like the thing that I brought. Like I didn't take anything with me. I'm walking home in the rain and I'm crying. And I fell twice. Like a pathetic idiot. And I was in a lot of pain, but I had to keep walking. I called Travis. I was like, this is in the Crofton Parkway. So, the parkway is like 3 miles around. And I was walking basically from like a quarter of it, a small portion of it. And so I was looking at Uber. And it was like $40 or something. And, it was one of those things where it's like, well, you're almost home. What's the point? But I needed a ride, but I still just walked home. And I was like, I felt so stupid. And so I got home and I realized how swollen my ankle was. And I took a sad shower and went to bed. And then this morning, I just feel so stupid for being so drunk. And from doing something so drunk. So then, Alex says, he's like, are these all of your things at the house? I was like, yeah. I said, I can't come get them today. My ankle is like fucked up. And he like shows up at my door. First, Travis and brings the kids over and brings me like ace bandages and like ice for ice pack and all that stuff. And he was really sweet and the kids were nice. And then Alex came by with that stuff and he just like didn't really he was like, how did you fall? And I was like, I don't know, because I'm an idiot. I'm embarrassed and it's pathetic. He was like, okay. I said, do you want to see it? He's like, no. It's like, okay, bye. I just felt like sad. And like I said, pathetic and alone. And like, even though I'm sorry, Greg, I like him, but he doesn't he's not, I deserve something better, and that's really why it ended, because he knows he can't give it to me. Like he can't, for some reason. He doesn't know why he can't, and he feels broken or something. I don't know. Lots of personal demons for him. And he was not, it was making him react a certain way, and it was to my detriment. and I was trying to like figure it out, but then he decided like this, I can't keep doing this to you. So let's just go back to being friends. It's like, great. Okay. But then I just like was reminded like, oh yeah, he keeps me at a arm's distance and it feels like rejection. And like I said, I just feel so stupid.
Well, first, I'm sorry that you're going through all of this. Talking to me about it.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to be sorry.
It makes me appreciate the magic that we had,
Yeah, there's two ways to approach this, I guess. There's the part of me that is your friend, and as we've maneuvered through our thing, that part that cares about you as a friend who's known you a very long time exists. And what I have realized is, you talk about this, or even before this, when I thought about everything that you've already gone through in getting a divorce, with our relationship, all the hard things that you've had to deal with. I don't wish ill, even, in moments. I think, all right, whatever. If that doesn't work or things take a turn for the worse, good. But that was like very, very fleeting with me, because what I realized, and I'm sorry to make this about me, but just to set this up,
and
then we can talk about everything you're going through. What I realized was there's ego, and then underneath my ego, there was care and love for you still. And hearing this, we never have talked about really what you were doing or with the relationship with Alex, and I didn't care to know. It's not something I need to talk about, and I'm not talking to you about specifics in my life, but that's just the way I like to operate.
Mm-hmm.
So this, is news. This is the first I've heard of anything. Like the fact that you're this upset over it because it didn't work out. It's like, oh, well, that was more than I thought maybe it was, and the way it had been presented. So there's the part that's me processing that. It's like, oh, okay. So this is news to me, is what I'm saying. That's anyone listening to this right now is, again, you didn't tell me anything before the recording. Here we are. Now we're talking about it. There's a range of feelings that comes into play, because no matter how much I can try to separate the two things, it's like, okay, well, we dated, and there was the part of it that was difficult for me when I find out you're dating someone else. And, I think that I've worked through that in a very healthy way. Like I know it was difficult, and it provided moments of strain, to say the least, between us. And the way I guess I approached it when I talked to you about it. But I feel as though I took that, I looked at it, I moved through it. And, I think talking about it from here on out on this show, my goal is to approach it as your friend and talk openly about it. I do worry about you. And now you present this, and you're saying everything's falling apart. And I think of you having made all these changes in your life, wondering what is going on in your head. And like the way you're reacting to this with the emotion and the sadness is strange to me, because this is coming out of a relationship that was a few months long.
Yeah. And it, I mean, we weren't even like boyfriend and girlfriend. I was just dating him, but I was liking him. But I was also feeling like he would like sort of close off, and I was trying to understand that. And I also was kind of glad in a way, because it was keeping things really slow, But then I was also disappointed in that because I was wanting more and I wasn't getting it.
Well, the level of hurt, it doesn't seem congruent even with you leaving Travis. It's like I didn't see this kind of reaction.
Oh, yes, you did.
I mean, there was a night of it, but that was a relationship. That was a marriage. There were kids.
Oh, there was extreme suffering,
I guess you just
going to sleep and crying in this horrible way. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess you just do a good job of masking it.
It's not masking. It's just private, I guess.
That's true. I mean, if you're having those feelings yourself, then it's not necessarily masking it. But if someone talks to you, and at that point, me knowing what was going on, it was kind of strange. Like, where are all these? Like, it wasn't that you were like completely cold or robotic, but
and I was distracted too. I was distracted by you. I was distracted by like everything that had to be done.
I still feel like there's a lot to be done.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on this? Like, when you assess all of this, how do you feel?
All of which?
Just everything. Where your life is now, where it's gone in the past year and a half.
Yeah.
Are there, I don't know, even maybe as extreme as regrets?
I don't know if regret, doing things differently for sure. But I think the things that I'm feeling and the stuff that I'm doing for myself and the therapy and everything, I think that is progress. I feel like I have made progress. And sometimes I feel like I've made a lot of progress, and then I feel like I've stepped 2 steps backwards, or I start to do those things where I start to like tell little fibs, like, oh, I can't because, I just like instead of being like just truthful and, I protect my image by saying, remember like that time when I told you we were at the movies and I went to the bathroom and I was like taking longer than I thought I wanted to. And I had this scenario in my head that I was going to tell you where I got a nosebleed and I had to I didn't do that. I came out and told you like, what the fuck is wrong with me? You weren't even thinking about how long I was in there, but there was something about me needing to protect. Like, I had an ideal time of how much time I should be taking while you're waiting. And that had to be sort of justified or something. And I feel like there are little moments of that, coming back a little bit. But I'm aware of them and I don't do them.
It's a strange thing. There's no reason.
It's a strange thing.
There's absolutely zero reason to lie. It's like, I don't know what the fear was. Oh, I took too long in the bathroom. Now he's going to be pissed.
No, because I don't think you would. But it really is just, it's a cultivating of how you'll feel about me. It's a pruning.
Yeah, I don't.
Anyway, that's something that is an old mechanism.
Well, trying to understand what that is and how it ties in. It seems like, again, I don't know the details of this, but it sounds like a person who was not emotionally available. And that does seem to be the trend in your dating history. Even if people are around and you establish relationships with them, there are people who are not that emotionally available, or at least not in touch with it, who will still be in relationships. And that's what you're attracted to. That's what you like. When we dated, I don't know. I obviously have a history of not being available emotionally, but when we dated, I put it out there. I was like, all right, this is it. I'm opening up. I'm going to be available. And it proved to be too much, and you weren't there yet. And that's fine. But, one of the things I think when our relationship ended and I find out you're dating someone else, it's not, ego aside, nobody likes the idea of like, oh, there's someone else and I'm being replaced. But that wasn't really what bothered me, because I had always said and always meant, I was like, whatever you need to do, with your life to be fulfilled and happy, I will support. And that's what I've always said before we even ever started dating. Like any choice that you had made, I was like, okay, if that feels as though that's the honest choice, and it so happens that it doesn't involve me being in your life in that capacity, in a relationship capacity, then fine. I'll get through it. And that's what I was trying to do with this. I was like, okay, I'll get through it. But it bothered me more. It's like, so you're just going to move to another relationship and either give the person the things that you couldn't do with me, or just enter a relationship that's going to play out the same way. And that was a conflict, because as a friend, I don't want to see you going into another relationship repeating the same habits and mistakes. And I don't mean that as a criticism, because God knows, me having officially 10 relationships or whatever the hell it is, it's not like a point of pride or a badge that I wear. It's like, oh, that I just kept repeating the same mistakes over and over. And then at some point I started implementing new things, and it still wasn't right, but there was a slope of progress at some point, and it took a little bit to get to the point that I wanted to be. So either you're entering that, and I think I don't, want that for you. That goes against everything you said you're looking for in getting a divorce and trying to set up a life that works for you. And then the other side is like, or you just do the things that you couldn't do with me with someone else that you don't know, and it's like, okay, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. I don't feel like I was doing either of those things. I feel like what I was doing was, kind of implement more focusing on, realizing that a lot of my decisions and actions have to do with someone else. So, instead of doing the thing I want to do, I would sort of wait to see if, if Alex was going to make plans with me. And then if he wasn't, then I would do the thing I wanted to do, instead of just doing the thing I want to do. And then if he wants to make plans, I can do those plans too. You know what I mean? And that in on a small scale, applies to a lot of how I guess, where I set my worth, and I'm realizing that I'm doing that. And so I'm practicing trying to change my mindset about stuff like that. And so even though I didn't love the way it was going, it still felt like it was doing me good, because I was learning things, I was learning to think about, what do I want? How happy am I with this situation? What can I do to change that? What can I need to communicate with this person, whatever. But
well, it sounds like you weren't getting anything that you wanted, which the hard thing to do in this process.
I was at first, and then it was kind of once I think once he started to like me, then he got weird, and it scared him or something.
Yeah, it sounds like a lame excuse, honestly. I don't know who operates like that.
Yeah.
People should be responsible for themselves. I don't know him at all, but speaking for myself, there are plenty of relationships I shouldn't have gotten into, because I knew. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this, probably. Well, that's not true. I didn't know. I thought that I would be able to...
You felt like you could do it.
Yeah, I thought I could do it by not changing anything, that I would end a relationship and it would be the magic bullet, and it would... Not that the person forced me to change, because the moment anyone asked me to change or told me I needed, then it wouldn't have worked. But the idea was, this is going to cause me to change because this is what I want. But that's not, for me, that's not the way a relationship is going to work ever. A relationship needs to grow out of what my life is and the way I set it up. And it's like, okay, now I know the things I want and need and how to get them. And a relationship isn't going to serve that purpose for me. So I can actually do this properly now. because I'm not leaning on it to change me.
Right, yeah.
It's like I'm going to enter this in a non-romantic way. It's a contract with another person that, hey, this is the way we want to do it. It can be different for anyone. Anyone can set up any contract that they want. But this is the way you kind of lay things out. And you say, this is what I need. Can you do those things? The other person you have to trust. And they say, yes, I can do those things. And they tell you the same thing. You say, yes, I think I can meet those needs. And then you move forward. And
I think I'm still doing the leaning on the relationship to help me change.
Well, I feel like in the past, if someone had presented their list of needs to me and I read it and knew that I couldn't meet those, I still probably would have said yes. And that's a shit move. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Because you feel hopeful almost. Like I would feel hopeful.
Yeah, I think there is this idea. Yes, I can do that. Because somewhere inside, you can probably do some of those things, but not being honest.
And you like the person.
Yeah,
you don't want to not do it.
Sure, but this is the difficult thing. The moment you realize this isn't matching up, you still tend to like people, and then you have to say, no, that is the difficult adult thing to do, depending on what you're looking for. If you just want a relationship to have fun, which I could never do because I do emotionally get involved. It's not just, hey, I'm hanging out and we'll do our thing and I'm not going to think of you outside of that. Some people can do that, and if that's what you want, that's fine. And that's a need that you want in the relationship that can be met. Both people have to be on the same page with that too, because the moment someone else starts having feelings, if that's what you want, then you have to end it. The thing is, you just need to know what you want and need, and the other person needs to know this. You need to express it, and then if they don't do that or can't do that, you have to say, okay, this is done. Even if you still like them.
It's hard though, because this isn't like a boardroom negotiation. It comes out in little ways, and then you find it out as you go.
Relationships are transactional, ultimately. That's what they are. I know it's not romantic.
Of course, but I'm talking about like expressing everything properly, laying it out on the table. Stuff like that ends up, you sort of find it out organically. You know what I mean? I don't feel like, when you first meet and there's like sparks or something, you're not just saying everything that like, I'm going to need this and that and that and this and that.
I think you can do that. I think that's totally fair to do.
Okay.
And if I'm going to be honest, that's what I did this last time around. I was like, okay, well, things seem to be matching up, and there's
not with me, with their new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like things are matching up, and if there's going to be any chance of this going somewhere and turning into something, this is it. This is the list. Take a look. You don't have to answer right away. You can sit with it for weeks, because early on in a relationship also, you should just enjoy what it is, the beginnings of a new relationship, and you don't need to mess it up. But so there's no need to like force things or to move any faster than they need to, or they are happening organically or at all at any point. And, that's one thing that I feel like I've got a good grasp on at this point is I'm not trying to make it go anywhere. It's like, as long as these things are happening, I'm fine. I'm not going to try to control that much.
Yeah.
And I tried to do that with us. I always said, just take the space that you need and do the things you do, as long as there's some movement in any direction. I don't want to sit stagnant with anyone. And I knew that you were dealing with a lot. So it's like, you need to have the room to actually work through all of this shit. And sometimes I just wondered if you, because you do have this tendency, it's like, everything's cool, everything's fine, it's great. Like, I don't know if it is. And then it felt like I was being overly serious. Like, you're always serious. You never want to have fun. I was like, well, if you're going to put this stuff out there and say that, a relationship is a thing that you want, it does require exploring some of this, because it's a big thing. I don't know, what you were looking to get out of this last one. But it seems like the way you talked about it, you weren't getting the things you want. So it was moving in a direction where it wasn't just necessarily a casual thing.
It was maintained as casual, because I would have gone past casual but he wasn't doing that. And so
are you honestly, answer this honestly, are you ready to move past casual with a person? What's the longest you haven't been in a relationship?
I don't know.
Before you were, 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or after you were 15, I should say. Not counting before.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hold on, let me think. Oh, maybe between John, my first boyfriend, and Tim, there was some time, but I don't know how long it was. It probably wasn't very long.
And I obviously have been a serial dater myself, so this isn't.
I really get a lot of self-worth from how someone feels about me. Instead of just how I feel about me. That's sad.
If you balance it, you have to balance it. It's nice when other people care about you. You can get self-worth from that, but it doesn't need to be the only source of it. I don't know how comfortable you are with yourself or what you actually feel or think. And there were times I feel as though I would bring that up. I mean, I would be shut down because you would say, "You don't trust me." I was like, I guess I don't. Because
I'm sorry. That was,
no apology. Look, this is not about us. I want to talk about what you're doing. This is just because I have experience with you on that level.
Yeah.
These are the things that I noticed. And, it's not meant to.
I wasn't ready to do that with you. Not with you. Just I wasn't ready to access that stuff.
Are you ready now is the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You may not be. And that's okay. But the more you put yourself in the situation, where it sounds weird. Because we did date, I'm not telling you not to date people. That's not what I'm trying to say. But again, approaching this as a friend, it probably would be beneficial to not date anyone for a bit and work on things and form friendships and get some of those to a deeper level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Once you understand who you really are and what you actually want, then I feel as though entering a relationship, again, unless it's just a fling or something, but it doesn't seem like it's what we're talking about, because even with this, you were ready to move into something pretty quickly after our relationship ended.
No, I wanted it to be super casual. But then I got to know him more and I liked him more. But then I was never getting the things I needed. But if I would bring them up with him, he was very understanding, and he knew what he was like. He was like, "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's not fair. I'm sorry." And would explain, where it's coming from. But it never it was always it would move from 0 to -1, and I would talk about it, or I would get upset about it or whatever, and he'd move it back to 0. It was never if 10 is marriage and in love and whatever, it was never past I feel like it was if it was anything, it was ever at maybe a 1. And I just wanted it to be a 4 or 5, nothing crazy.
Well, it sounds like you would express the things that you needed and he would give you the reasons why that wouldn't work. And at that point, to me, that sounds like I can't do that. And you didn't want to take that for what it was.
He didn't say he couldn't do it. I think he wanted to do it and he kept trying, but it wasn't happening. And then it was no, I can't do it. So. And then I just feel so embarrassed.
Well, you put yourself in a strange situation. You don't need to be the cool, strong person.
Yeah.
It sounds awful what you explained and described, walking home in the rain and
soaking
falling.
wet when I got home.
Yeah, there are certainly moments in life. It's what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I did that. There was one time when I was using pills and like I was waiting for the stupid guy, and I sat for like 5 hours. He's like, I'm almost there. And that was like one of those moments for me. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? What the fuck is this? And that was a big moment when I was like, this needs to change. So, we all have.
Yeah, it feels like a bottom, Like I feel low.
And so look, it's okay to feel low. I'm sorry that you do. I hate that you do.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I do want to be the strong person. I want to be like those, people on TikTok that are like, don't cry over that man, or don't, your self-worth and you're this, you're a queen, like all that stuff. I want to be like that.
What were you trying to prove? And was it to you? Was it to him?
I think it was to me. And then I also like still wanted to be around him, and like, I don't know, like he'd break up with me, but he'd be around me and be like, oh man, why did I break up with her? She's so cool. And change his mind. Pathetic.
Why would you want that?
Validation.
That's the thing. That's the TikTok thing that, gets taken to extremes, and it's kind of lame the way people present it. It's like, oh yeah, girl, be so strong. But
yeah,
anyone, if a person doesn't want that with you, what the fuck do you want to convince them for?
Yeah, I did it with Wade. Wade tried to break up with me a bunch of times. And we would break up, and then we'd get back together. We'd break up and get back together. He'd break up with me, and we'd get back together. And then one of the last times he did it, I was like, no. Just like wouldn't let him break up with me.
And then you
were together for 5 years.
And then you screwed him over. Then you screwed him over.
I didn't screw him over.
You screwed. Come on.
I screwed Wade over.
So Wade's trying to tell you. I don't think you like being broken up with.
Who does?
Wade's trying to tell you. You date him. I'm breaking up with you for whatever reason. Maybe he can't express it. Maybe he doesn't know. But there were certain things you wanted with him that you weren't going to get, and you knew this, and you kept trying to push for it. He said, "No, we're not going to break up. We're not breaking up." And then it got to the point where there was overlap, where you meet Travis, and you're still with Wade, and then you insult Wade by saying,
"This was like years later."
Okay,
this was years and years later.
Sure, you broke Wade to the point where he just said, "Okay," and he kind of gave up and drifted along.
Yeah.
And then you met Travis, and
he screwed me over though too.
Okay, how?
Because we always, I wanted to get married and have kids.
And he said no. And he tried to break up with you.
No. In the beginning, I don't know what, I don't remember what those reasons were. Maybe that had to do with it. I don't remember. It could have been, but I don't remember. Later, it came to a head because he still wouldn't marry me. And he wanted to move me to Maine because even though he had taken 1 billion years to graduate college because he kept switching his major, he starts this business that he uses his pop left him a trust fund, nothing big, but just some money. And so he used that to start this business. He bought all this equipment. He was doing this thing. He was working on it. And then he tells me he wants to be a mason's apprentice. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he tells me he wants to join, the Marines and move to Maine. I'm like, well, then we got to get you have to we have to, if I'm going to move with you, you have to, the crossroads are here. If I'm going to be with you, I'm going to get married later than I think I want, whatever. And you're going to have to get married earlier than you want to. We'll just meet in the middle. And I was like, this is the crossroads. And he was like, no, I don't want to. I was like, okay, then we can't do it. I was already very having, a life without him though. Our lives were no longer really running.
It doesn't sound like he screwed you over. Do you have a difficult time viewing things, seeing things for what they really are?
Yeah.
In that situation, I don't know what he was doing. It sounded like he wanted to break up too, but it does also sound like he's like, I tried that in the past. So maybe I can't speak to what was going on in his mind, but I know at the end of that, you met Travis and you convinced Wade that there was nothing and it was fine.
Yeah.
And then
because I was convincing myself the same thing.
Yeah, but at the expense of someone else.
I know. See, I suck.
No, it's not. Look, don't view it like you're a bad person or malicious. This is a denial, I feel, as though you have about what things really are. People get hurt, but you know what hurts less when you're honest? It hurts in the moment.
It's hard to, that's what I'm trying to practice, is being honest in the moment.
There's not going to be a life where a person doesn't get hurt or their feelings don't get hurt. Even if you have a great relationship, some things are going to make another person feel bad. If you have a good enough relationship, it's approached as, yeah, okay, I feel bad now that you said that, but also I will listen to what you're saying and, address it.
I just want things to be better. And no matter what the conversation not no matter, but it tends to be like whatever is happening in the conversation, it's like the resolve of it is just to make everything okay instead of maybe taking in either the actions or what's actually being said as a way to make a decision.
And,
because maybe the decision is like, oh, I'm not getting what I need.
Well, with Alex
even on,
right now,
in a tiny way,
With Alex right now, I don't know, what are you actually mourning? An idea that was to never be? It's you wanted this specific house that was on this street. Mm-hmm. And dating him was actually a house a few doors down wasn't the house you wanted. But you just kept thinking, no, maybe this will be that house. And if you've gotten in, it's not the house you wanted anyway.
I think the house could be there. I think it's
not there. That's the thing. It's not. You have to
not right now. I think he has the ability. I think he has the ability to be extremely emotional, but he definitely
is that what you want to deal with? You want to at 40 years old, 39 years old, you want to take the time to, stick with someone, train them, raise them to the possibility is there. How old is he?
I wanted to be the person. Huh?
How old is he?
He's turning 40.
It's not going to be there.
He's our age.
It's not going to be there.
It has been there for him before, and
these sound like excuses.
You
have to accept things.
I'm such an idiot.
You have to accept things as they are in front of you. What ifs, possibilities, if someone's already in tune and in touch with that stuff, along the way, struggles happen.
But then when I would talk about stuff with him like that, it was like, you're right. He was very insightful. He seemed to understand a lot of it.
Yeah. Insightfulness.
And so it made me think, and then, I don't know, it just made me think it's in there. And maybe
we've talked about
if he liked me enough, then it would come out.
That's also you expecting the relationship to do for him what I would thought relationships to do for me. The relationship will cause me to be different. No, the person already needs to be there. They need to be in that spot.
He's not there.
So that's what it is. That's the reality of it. Anything else is a fantasy.
Yeah.
And so what you're mourning isn't even a real thing. It was an idea of a thing. Being rejected also sucks, but whatever.
He even said, it's not like I'm rejecting you. It's that I can't do it. And it makes me behave in a way that isn't treating you well.
When people say that too, and I'm not going to say that he doesn't mean that. I do think that people also mean that, but it's also they don't want to be straight up. And because I feel that it gives false hope. What you're thinking is this could be there, maybe, if he could just get to this point when a person says, I just can't do it right now, or I can't access this. And you think, but if he could, the person needs to be.
I don't think he's meaning it that way, but I do. Yeah, I do think that way.
People need to be more direct though, too. No. Because that's still somewhat of a vague statement. I've been guilty of it. This isn't judgment.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what people do. But that's, the direct thing is, no, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. The end.
That's it.
There was nothing, more there, really. And I think even with our relationship, that was when we broke up, it was me finally accepting the reality of what it was. Because there was this idea of what we wanted it to be.
Right.
And we had talked about it, and I thought that we would actually get there, and I thought that we could, but, it was going to be a lot of work no matter what because of all the different factors that were in play, and it was going to be difficult. And, you not being at a spot where you could do hard things meant that we weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I had this idea. It's like, we could do that. That could be a thing if she could just get there. And, this sounds like it's all you too. Like, I have my things, but mostly I feel as though, and I do stick by this, my thing with the relationship was it just should have ended months before, and I let it drag out because I knew. But that was the thing. It's hard to accept what it really was.
Yeah.
As I knew it was done. I was like, this, as it is, isn't going to work. And that sucks because there's an idea attached to it. And a big idea. And, especially with us, because we know each other so long, and it was going to be this grand thing. But the reality of what it was, like, no, that's not real.
Yeah.
And mourning that is a real thing. Like, mourning the idea is fair, but also realizing that wasn't an actual thing that was in my life. So I didn't lose anything.
Yeah. But I mean, you had those feelings. And so even though they weren't maybe based on something that was real, it still makes it hard to lose it, even if it wasn't really ever there. Yeah.
Losing an idea, putting hope and faith into something, and then having it not work out is hard. It's a difficult thing, but it's also, when you divorced Travis or left him, at least, I think that was a real thing that was lost. That was a life, a house with kids, and like I felt as though mourning that, I was like, that's a huge change in life.
Yeah.
When we broke up, the truth is it didn't change my life much. We saw each other every few weeks, but our lives were still separate. And it's not to say, again, that wasn't hard, but it's like my life didn't really change, other than it stressed our relationship and I didn't talk to you as much. And that's a jolt. Like, you talk to someone a lot and then you're not, and someone you still care about. It's like, okay, but that's a thing to process and work through. And there were times I wasn't sure. It's like, I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. And, there's still times now that I'm not as open with you. And maybe we get back to that. And I think we will. So that part's temporary. But, what you're mourning now, your life didn't change. It was an idea.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to mourn the loss of your relationship with Travis, because I felt as like that's a big change, and it only makes sense to process that. So I don't know if you have to still have feelings. You made a decision, and whether or not you stand by that decision, and from what you've told me, you do. I don't feel like you regret that, because do you think you were going to be able to get what you wanted from your marriage?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, so while it's hard right now because you're alone, feeling alone.
But he does like give me some of what I need. Like today when he brought that stuff over, like he was kind, and he like wrapped my ankle for me. And like I thanked him, and like we touched hands, or like we were like holding hands for a second. You know what I mean? Just like it was just sweet, and he's really sweet.
Yeah. And that's real. It's not all or nothing. And that part obviously still exists between you two.
Yeah.
If you didn't feel as though you would get everything you needed outside of that, then it's okay to make the choice, but it's a hard decision.
Yeah, I don't know how to be alone, I guess.
No, but I hope this doesn't sound preachy, but it's like when I think about you and I worry about you, it's because you did some hard things, because you wanted to pursue something that was meaningful, even if it's this vague, arbitrary thing, but it's like a life that was more fulfilling, and to find a relationship that was able to give you the things that you wanted, which honestly are still theory for you too. Like, I know you're putting in the work, and God knows it takes a long time to implement these things. I always thought with you, you took to change faster than I did, and you still may. But I know when I'm trying to change who I am, it's not even change who I am, because I didn't want to change. That was the first
changes
thing.
Into place.
Yeah, the first thing I had to come to terms with was, like, I'm not changing who I am. I am who I am. Like, this is it, and here's how I can work within that better. Things like overthinking and constantly misplacing my keys and getting angry over it, like it's the end of the world. Whatever. This is going to be who I am. Here's how I can better live within that. But even getting to that point, rolling things in, combining elements of your personality, I'm slow as fuck. And I thought that you're faster, and you may still be faster. But, you know, when you were starting to go to therapy and put in that work, it's like, all right, she seems to have a grasp on it. And I do think you grasp it. So that's the first step. You grasp it.
Yeah, it's putting it into practice and doing it in real time, you know, I feel like is a skill, because I feel afterward, after something happens, I think, oh, I understand what I did there, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's easier to look back on and think about what happened versus making the right sort of choices in the moment for the change that you want to see. I'm not great at that yet.
You just have to practice it, but you have to actually make those choices and implement them. And sometimes that's very hard.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first step is understanding what you need to do. The second step is recognizing when a situation presents itself in the real world. Third step's then actually doing whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah.
And then that's uncomfortable, and then you have to keep doing it until it becomes more comfortable. And then you realize the world's not going to end, and any good person's not going to ditch you or hate you because you expressed something that maybe made them feel a certain way that was, you know, less than happy.
Yeah. I mean, but that's has been the dynamic between me and my mom, you know, where I would say something if I did make a boundary that, or, you know, that made her feel a certain way that's less than happy, you know, it did like upset her.
And that's hard. I understand how difficult that is, but the truth is that wasn't yours to take on.
No,
it's not your job to
you know,
carry.
when it's in your DNA, you know, it's hard to unlearn that.
It is. It's very hard. And that's where the practice comes in.
And she had it too. Like her words could kill, you know, her mom, you know, and so she didn't have the tools to help me. Like it's less than, you know, the relationship that I have with my mom is, you know, way a billion times better than what she had with her mom. But there are still some things that were never sort of fixed or thought about before dealing with me. And I'm sure I'm going to fuck up Ellie and Pete in some kind of weird way. we all fuck up our kids in some way.
I don't think you need to think that you're going to fuck them up. You just have to
assume.
Yeah, but through
Not
example.
Not fuck them up, but, you know, have to.
Through example, you just have to show them to own their feelings. So you have to own your own feelings. And if something happens that makes you feel a certain way, express that this is okay. This doesn't mean bad things. It's also not your job to fix it. And, you know, expressing that through words is one thing, but if they actually see that happen, like, oh, no, she is fine. She's okay. She never stopped loving us or caring about us.
Yeah.
Because this hard thing happened, then that's fine. That's the example, and they'll be okay. They're not going to fuck them up. I think the fear.
I feel like there's a lot, the stuff that I've learned over the past, like almost year and a half or 2 years or whatever, that my relationship with them is really different. And I think that the way that I react to them and act toward them is really different. It's like I express how I'm really feeling about them, you know, in the moment. And even if I'm really frustrated, that's okay. You know, it's not like I hold it against them, or it's like it's more fleeting than long lasting, you know, because I think I'm letting out the steam as I go instead of letting the pressure build.
You also have to be okay when they're angry at you. I think that's a tough one sometimes for you. They're not going to, what are they going to hate you? Ditch you? You're not our mom anymore. That's not, you know.
No, I'm better about that too. I don't know if it was always that hard for me when they were mad at me. Like, I understood what's happening. But no, I'm okay with that. But anyway.
Any relationship, kids, but anything. I know family, you're kind of stuck with them, but you can also, I'm not talking about anything specific with you, but sometimes family gets to the point where people do become estranged and it may be needed. But any relationship, the thing is having people around who, when you're going to butt heads, conflict's going to arise, things aren't going to match, someone's going to say something that makes another person feel bad, is knowing that the other person's not going to hold it against you. If they do hold it against you and they throw it in your face and they constantly bring it up, then it's a person you shouldn't have around.
Right.
Like, fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah. Somebody, I would never be stuck with someone like that. I have enough like self-esteem or whatever. But
you're still seemingly drawn to people who are not completely available. And because it's hard, I don't think you want to be with someone who's completely available yet, because I don't know if you can do it at this moment.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's fine. And the story that you tell, to open the show, which I know how shitty you feel.
Yeah.
But it's not representative of you made the worst choices and there's no going back. It's you decided to do something difficult. And building that is hard. And as you're building it, maybe it collapses sometimes.
Yeah.
But you have to be honest about what it is you're building and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. And that seems scary. But I'm going to do it because I have to. Because you're past the point of avoiding. If you do avoid now, this is, I think, a worry I have about you, since I know that you can avoid so well. Remaining in the marriage with Travis, avoiding. Would you be fulfilled? No. Would you be happy? I don't want to say you wouldn't be happy, but would you be fully happy? Probably not, the way you've presented it. But it's safe. It's like I have the structures here.
Yeah.
And I'm protected.
I feel like when I do take steps backwards or something like this happens, I feel like lost.
Yeah, because you don't have that structure, but that structure was just a hut that you were hiding in from the elements, and you've decided to leave. Now you're in the elements, and you're going to be exposed to them sometimes, and you can't avoid now. The problem here is if you avoid, you are going to find yourself in this situation more often than you want, and it's not going to turn out well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that for you. You made the choice. The hard choice, you jumped in feet first into the deep end, and now you have to swim. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to happen now, as long as you're making some movement. But I guess try to get an idea of what it is you want, where exactly you want to go, and be honest about that. Because sometimes if you say, this is just an example, and I don't think you want to move back to Atlanta, but let's say, I wanted to live in Atlanta. I want to live in Atlanta. But I could see you writing that, no, because that would require you taking the kids and moving away. Look, if that's a thing that you want, something that you have to be honest about it. And then figure out what to do with it, how to get there. Is there a compromise that isn't that extreme? But I feel
I don't know what I want.
Just don't.
Because it's always based around something else, someone else.
Be honest. That's all I ever pushed you for. Is like, be honest about the things.
It's hard because you feel like you're being honest, but in reality, like I don't know how to access that. I don't know what it is I want.
It may not be as specific either, but
because I think sometimes what I want is like, if I wrote it down on paper, it would probably look a lot like my relationship with Travis, because that's what I know as what is good.
Well, maybe that's what you wanted, except it just wasn't able with Travis to give you everything you wanted. And this isn't to say that, people always get everything they want, but it felt as though whatever you weren't getting was big enough for you to think leaving is the better option here. Even if things weren't bad, that's the hard thing. But I think you have an idea of who you want to be and the things you want to do. And you do put yourself second. When we had discussions about you 15 years, once the kids are grown, then I'll start doing the things I wanted to do, whatever it is, baking, whatever, art, or being in a situation and around people or environments and being around cultural things. You have to do it. You have to figure out where you can get that, what you want to do. And there were things that you didn't feel like you could get in that relationship. So maybe it still looks like that. You want a marriage and you want to have the stability of a relationship on that level, but with a person who can give you more.
Yeah.
That you also have to give more to. You don't give I was going to say you don't give a lot. That's not true. But you are also comfortable with being safe, is what I should say. You give plenty, and that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
But getting out of the comfort zone sometimes is hard. And if people aren't demanding or asking you of things, I think you kind of prefer that too.
Yeah.
But it didn't work for you. That's what you have to be realistic
I know.
about. Just because something is comfortable, and this is all projection, but just because something is comfortable doesn't mean that it's actually working. It's just compared to the two things. I know what I'm getting with this. It's not working for me, but at least I understand what it's involved. The other side's very scary. It's unknowns.
Yes.
It's gonna present me with situations that are hard for me to sit with and feel.
Well, that's how I feel right now.
This is part of it.
Yeah, I feel like alone, unimportant, not cared about.
But this is not true. And also, like, that has a lot of power to give someone you dated for a few months.
I know. It's not, I don't think it's him. I think it's just my coping or something. My ankle hurts.
It's like you're surrounded by people who care about you and you aren't alone.
Yeah. But when you're sad, you feel alone.
I hear you.
Like people who want to kill themselves, they have a lot of people that love them, but they're like, nobody loves me.
Because they're not open to it for whatever reason. The tunnel vision is.
But yeah, that's how I don't feel like killing myself, but that's how it feels, where it's like, no one actually cares about me. Who let me walk home in the rain last night? No one cares.
Well,
I should have not let myself do that.
But it's also, I don't know who did let you walk home in the rain last night.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I don't know if I'd be so upset over that person.
I know. And I'm really not. The reason why I'm crying isn't because of all that. It is because I feel like embarrassed. Like I did such a dumb thing. I could have really been hurt, I mean, I live in a safe area, but that was dumb. That was a dumb thing to do. It was a dumb, drunk thing to do.
Well, you live in an area that's not used to having pedestrians.
But it was all sidewalk. It was like a neighborhood, basically. It was basically walking in a neighborhood. But still, it was just a stupid thing to do. And then for me to go even probably was stupid.
That was pretty stupid. I don't.
And like to drink it away was also pretty stupid. So yeah, I feel like embarrassed or like ashamed about those things. And maybe I'm just having like hangover blues also,
Well, no need to beat yourself up over those. Those are things that happened. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can go into the realm and talk to yourself like you're stupid and dumb, but then it's just a distraction from the stuff that's really
it's true.
The cause of this.
Yeah.
So
what is the cause?
The cause, you just need to be real and honest about the things that are in front of you. How did you get to the spot where you are walking home? It's not the fact that you walked home drunk and fell and hurt your ankle and were soaked. That happened, but it's like, what are the things that put you in a situation to do that? Why did you feel a need to go there?
Yeah.
What were you trying to get out of it? What purpose was that serving?
Yeah.
And that's probably, that's where you need to focus. You could say, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done this. I can't believe how embarrassing. And then you just forget about the whole other thing. Why did you go there?
Yeah. No, you're right. It is like a distraction.
I also, you don't owe anyone anything. Meaning, he probably feels some guilt for breaking up with you. And it's like, just come be my friend. If you don't want to be the person's friend, don't be the person's friend. I know that you like the idea of that too. Let's just be friends. It's like, you don't need to do stuff like that. And it's not wrong to invite you over, but I feel as though it was somewhat selfish. It's like, I want to feel better about having done that.
Yeah. But I wanted to feel better too. Like, I wanted to go to, well, I didn't really want to, but if it's going to happen, then like, let's just pretend like it's all fine. Because eventually it will be fine.
You would have felt better if you sat there.
Drinking will help.
No, if you sat there and processed your feelings, you would have felt better eventually. It's slower and harder and uncomfortable.
Yeah. And uncomfortable. And that's hard.
And that's what you ultimately made yourself feel worse.
Yes.
You'll be okay. You just have to realize that you're in this deep. And that's not a bad thing. But the decisions you made have put you in a spot where you have to do harder things. And they're going to be uncomfortable.
I don't want to.
Well, you should have thought about that before you left your marriage.
I know. I do want to. It's just actually doing it is hard.
If you didn't want to, you could have just existed in the status quo. That wasn't working for you.
I know. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry this is such a change from last week.
Yeah. You're so whiny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. You're not.
Yeah.
But I just think of assholes who listen. And in one of those episodes we talked about our relationship, I was referred to as whining about it. It's like, I don't think having feelings and talking about something is whiny.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem is, oh, yeah, you should just deal with it. I did deal with it. I didn't sit and wallow.
Part of dealing with it is talking about it and maybe whining about it.
I didn't.
I'm not saying you were whining. I'm just saying, like, if that's what he heard, then whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, I didn't sit and wallow. Okay, I did it. I talked about it and moved through it. And I did exactly what I was supposed to do.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you for letting both of us be open and vulnerable, whether we're silly and happy or sad or angry or whatever. So thank you for that. I don't know. I still don't know what we'll call this show. I guess you'll find out when you've already listened to it. But support hoffandpepper.com. Use our code OneTopic15. Also, check out the podcast that I was on, Off the Rails. I think it's coming out this week on Wednesday. So go look for them and listen to me. I'm hilarious. It was the beginning of my sad journey. So see how happy I was in the beginning of my day. And then go back and listen to this one and hear how sad I was at the end of that day. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greg. I feel like I owe you like a copay for therapy.
You owe me a lot, but whatever.
Okay.
One day I'll collect.
Oh, no.